The sheer audacity for Kamala to say this about Trump regarding their upcoming debate this Tuesday. You are not going to believe what this woman just said.
Right? Because in some states, early voting starts in just 11 days, which means that debate stage will likely be the candidates' last chance to make their case to those all-important undecided voters. It will also be the first time Donald Trump and Kamala Harris meet, literally. The vice president talked about the big night in a taped interview with the Ricky Smiley Morning Show that aired earlier today.
He plays from this really old and tired playbook, right? Where there's no floor for him in terms of how low he will go. And we should be prepared for that. We should be prepared for the fact that he is not burdened by telling the truth. And we should be prepared for the fact that he is probably going to speak a lot of untruth.
CNN's Jeff Zeleny is here with us now from Doylestown, Pennsylvania, one of those critical collar counties around Philadelphia. Bucks County. What are you hearing from voters there, Jeff?
Dana, there is no doubt there will be a global audience on this debate, but it is the voters here in Pennsylvania, really across the Commonwealth, that are perhaps the most important audience of all here, as Vice President Harris and Donald Trump do have their very first meeting. We know that because look at the spending. There is no battleground state that has seen more advertising spending, some $157 million. Democrats have a slight edge on that, but Republicans also spending more than $70 million here. So look, the backdrop of this is a very, very tight race. The vice president has been preparing all weekend long for 5 days in Pittsburgh, the western part of the state. I'm told she has one objective overall: to still introduce herself to some voters who may be exhausted at the notion of a second Donald Trump presidency, but also who are not sure about her. So to fill in some of those gaps and also to be seen as the candidate of change. For Donald Trump, of course, he wants to tie her to the Biden administration. So
she is in the Biden administration. She is the second most powerful person in the world right now. Why would she not be directly tied to Joe Biden's administration? What type of clown world logic is this? And I swear, when they talk about Donald Trump and people are tired of all the drama regarding him, he does not bring the drama. He merely combats the drama. He's just shaking up their world, and they make a whole fuss out of it. They attack him with everything in the book, and Donald Trump just stands up and takes it on the chin like a freaking man. He takes these flings and arrows, not for himself. He takes it for the American people, because we have been getting walked over decades upon decades upon decades, and he's the first man in a long, long time who actually has our best interests at heart.
Biden administration. So talking to voters as they begin to tune in, there's a bit of a sense of exhaustion as well. Of course, they've been living and breathing this debate for a very long time on television with candidate visits. But the head-to-head contest tomorrow evening in Philadelphia here certainly is likely one of the biggest final moments of this debate. So voters certainly will be tuning in, paying attention, because they know that once they vote, they can tune out some of those advertisements that have just been deluging them here. But there is no doubt a big moment, and the slice of undecided voters, they are still out there. Sometimes they seem as though they're unicorns. They are out there. So that is what both Harris and Trump are going after tomorrow night, Dana.
I absolutely do not think that you see real-life unicorns. They exist. I believe that, Jeff Zeleny. Thanks for your great reporting, as always. I'm joined now here at the table by other fantastic reporters, CNN's Manu Raju, the Washington Post's Leanne Caldwell, and CNN's Isaac Dovere. Hello, everybody.
Nice to see you.
Debate Eve. Isaac, you talk often to Harris campaign officials and people in her orbit. What's the latest that you are hearing about how she's feeling inside debate camp?
Look, they have been preparing for this debate since before the Biden and Trump debate. And of course, it was originally geared to be a vice presidential debate, a kind of launch into a 2028 campaign. This has been something that they've worked on. They want her to come across as her, as a normal human being. That's a big part of the thinking here, but also as strong and confident, not going through different policy positions like Joe Biden tried to do, but tripping Trump up whenever she can, letting Trump trip whenever she can make that happen.
What he just said there is they're not going to talk about policy. They're going to talk about her behavior and how she is. So you want to determine who becomes a president based purely on personality. They only want to talk about her personality versus Donald Trump. That should tell you everything you need to know come November. The people who are scared to tell you what they actually believe, that is a far more dangerous proposition than electing someone like Donald Trump who tells you where he stands on every single issue.
Herself presented to the American people as someone that they can see as president. We can forget almost just how little most people know about her. Of course, we're all paying so much attention to her, but this is, other than the interview that she did with you, Dana, she has not had an unscripted moment since she became the Democratic nominee for president.
Yeah, and there's a poll out this weekend asking that very question. Do you feel like you need to learn more? Kamala Harris, 28%, Donald Trump, 9%. We were joking, like, who are the 9% who don't know all about Donald Trump? Kamala Harris makes a little bit more sense since she's a relatively new candidate at the top of the ticket. Manu, I do want to talk about the way Donald Trump has been preparing for this debate, not so much about the sort of mechanics of it and the informality of it and all of the things that we have told, but what he is saying on the stump and on his social media platform. He's going back to election denialism, threatening voters, threatening poll workers, both past and present and future, talking about mail-in ballots being fraudulent, which I'm sure that really thrills the people who are trying to win Pennsylvania for him. But then also this truth, cease and desist. Together with many attorneys and legal scholars, and watching the sanctity of the 2024 presidential election very closely, because I know better than most the rampant cheating skullduggery that has taken place by the Democrats in the 2020 presidential election. Those involved in unscrupulous behavior will be sought out, caught, prosecuted at levels unfortunately never seen before in our country. If I'm a swing voter, well, first of all, we should also say, just for the record, there is no evidence that what he said is true. It went through in 2020, all of the courts. And
to me, it only seems that Donald Trump wants a fair election. Just give him a fair shot. Make sure every vote that is counted is identified for, and they know exactly who did that vote. You can't just have thousands of votes coming in at 4 o'clock in the morning, 99% of them for a certain candidate. We want every American vote counted for. Is that too much to ask? Every American vote. In regards to the 2020 election, if you don't believe there was any degree of funny business going on, then you are just straight up delusional. Because there's no way in God's green earth that Joe Biden got 81 million votes, more votes than Barack Obama did in 2008.
It went through in 2020, all of the courts, including Trump-appointed judges. They did not see any evidence, nor is there evidence yet that anything that he is suggesting will happen will in this election. But going back to sort of the politics of this particular argument, do you know any swing voters who hear this and say, oh, okay, so I better vote for Donald Trump?
Yeah, I mean, this is the reason why that Harris wanted the microphones unmuted, because he could say things like this and pop off in ways that will make him look unelectable to a lot of voters who want to move on past the 2020 elections. The challenge for Trump is going to try to make Harris look like someone who's going to be a continuation of the last several years, and that he can actually represent a serious change to something totally different. Because voters in that New York Times Siena poll made clear they are tired of the status quo. They're tired of 61% want to break from Joe Biden, but they don't necessarily want to go back to all the chaos from the Trump years and all the things that he's been saying. So can Harris draw out Trump to say things like that will undercut his credibility in the eyes of those swing voters? That is something that Joe Biden was not able to do in the last debate, what Harris wants to change.
And I don't want to just for 1 second set aside the politics of this and just talk about the danger of what I just read and what the former president continues to do. We saw it bear out on January 6th. We talked about this book that I co-authored, which I wish I knew a lot more about what happened in 1872 in this country before I covered the 2020 election, because when you sow the seeds of doubt and when you threaten people who are supposed to be in charge of counting votes, it has real life impact and potentially could lead to violence.
Absolutely, Deanna. It's twofold. It's the intimidation factor that you just talked about. The people who are working at the polls, the elected officials, what's happening in Georgia, how Donald Trump is trying to persuade the new Georgia election board to move forward with these pretty draconian rules, and what the Republican governor is going to do there. But it also has to do with the people who do support him. Donald Trump has successfully and effectively convinced a large portion of the American public that the last election was stolen. He is trying to already do the same again. It's because he is scared. He does not like to see what he sees in the polls. He has done this in every single election he has run in, 2016, 2020, and he's doing it again in 2024. It's the same old playbook.
If anyone saw the movie 3,000 Mules, I think it was, by Kash Patel, they documented all of the funny business that happened regarding the 2020 election. So stop saying everything was fine and dandy and there was nothing wrong. In regards to my second point, if Kamala Harris wants to say, oh, I'm so much different than Joe Biden, I'm going to change this country for the better, you have the burden of proof. You need to say, how are you going to change the country? Because you are second in command. You have the power to make lasting change for this country. But I guess she's not going to tell us her secrets on how she's going to do that unless she gets elected come November. You actually need to describe your policy and what you're going to do. All the while, you are Washington. You have been there for the past 4 years and did diddly squat for the everyday average American. All you did is make our lives worse. So why on earth would we give this woman another 4 years in the White House? But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this down below. How do you think the debate is going to go between Trump and Harris? You think Trump's going to be more reserved and let her speak? Or are you going to see more of the savage Donald Trump and he's going to go back and forth and he's going to have his quick one-liners? What do you think? I'd love to know your thoughts down below. And if you enjoyed, make sure to smash that like, comment, subscribe, and wish you guys nothing but the best. Till next time.